Hey, all my fantasy football friends. Welcome back. Welcome to the Multiple First channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Stash X, as always, Tony Stoll, coming at you from Northeast Ohio, here in my living room on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and we're here to discuss the tight ends of the 2023 rookie class. But before we get into that, we got some housekeeping to do. We wanted to update you on our Dynasty 24/7 365 in show league, our league of record on the MFDF channel here. As always, I'm joined by my partner Greg. What's going on today, brother?
Oh, hey there, Tony. We're uh, getting ready for the draft, and I am in an incredible mood waiting for it.
Yeah, I'm so stoked too. As of recording this video, there's about 5 days till the draft, so whenever you're watching that, it is less. So congratulations, person in the future, because it's even closer to draft time. But
We'll be
right
counting
here,
hours by the time this drops.
So right here we have our Dynasty 24/7 365 league. If you're first time tuning in, this is a draft that we did in a series of videos last off season. We ran our show defined strategy where we traded for multiple first round picks in the upcoming 23 year. These were a year away at the time, and we put together a wide receiver heavy with Josh Allen and Justin Fields build, and we were able to leverage this into a championship. So if you've ever had 5 first round picks and a title under your belt, it feels pretty good. But our roster is loaded. We got 13 rookies coming in. We don't have that many cuts to make. We need to find some trades. And me and Greg were kicking around making an offer to the Justin Herbert owner. So, we have Justin Fields, who represents some amount of risk. I think a little more risk than the community gives him credit for right now. And I'd like to pivot that with some stuff up into a Herbert if we can.
So let's look at some asset choices, and you tell me what you think, Tony. So would you add Brandon Ayuk to Justin Fields to get to Justin Herbert?
Easily. Yeah, that's a pretty chill 2-for-1. Yeah.
Would you add George Pickens?
Yeah, I would. I probably do that. I probably prefer that. I think I have Ayuk higher than Pickens personally right now. Yeah.
We have pick. Would you give pick 11? Add pick 11 to Justin Fields.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you add pick 9 to Justin Fields?
Yeah, I think I would. Yep.
Would you add pick 8 to Justin Fields?
I think that's where it starts to get a little sketchy. I think 8, yes. When you talk about Herbert and what he has to offer, elite quarterbacks.
Our highest pick is pick 7. Would you add pick 7 for Justin?
So tough pre-draft. We talk about.
Not.
Yeah, I think that's about where the cutoff is.
That's where I'm going to hold. Yeah. All right. So why don't I put out an offer of? I don't think Pickens gets it done.
No, we can send him several, right? We can do.
Why don't we
deals.
offer choice of Pickens, Ayuk, and the 11?
Yeah. So send 3 offers, which would be Fields and the 111, Fields and Ayuk, Fields and Pickens. All of those different deals to the Herbert owner in an attempt to get Herbert. I like that. I feel like at least one of those probably sparks a counter, and we might be able to get something done there.
Yep. So send.
Great, just firing off these offers. I love it. Yeah, we make live trades on the show. That's something we bring to you, the listeners. So as we put our money where our mouth is, our own teams, and we're making actual trades right here on the show. Something we've always done, and we're going to continue to do for you. Is it ever worth spending more to get more? I don't know. He's got like Stephon Diggs and JJ. I don't really want to open up that can of worms to try to pursue those players. I'd love to get them, but yeah, I'm not so in love with any skill position player on our team, or I wouldn't be willing to move it to get that second, top 5 quarterback in there.
Absolutely. I mean, and I do think we have like a top 10 quarterback here, right? So we just need to, or we have I think we have a top 7 quarterback, but I just think there is a lot of risk in it compared to those other higher tier guys. I would love to get to a Trevor Lawrence. I would love to get to a Joe Burrow. Those are some other names that I would consider, but let's see what the Herbert manager wants to do first. We are going to have to do some consolidating. We can trade up on the clock. We can add a pick or add a player to a pick to get to a higher pick. Package 2 picks for a higher pick. Send off picks for future year picks. But we are going to definitely need to between the players on our roster who we're not willing to cut and the picks we have, we're going to have to shrink by about three by the end of the draft.
Yeah, we're going to want to get 3 or 4 roster spots. The best ways to do that, I'll tell you right now, listeners at home, is you know, don't get antsy pre-draft. Don't make bad deals to try to open that up. Your league is going to all be together in chat when the rookie draft is live and open, and guys will be looking to find trades down as their pick comes to them. So that's where your windows are. That's when someone's actually open-minded to making a deal, and that's where you're going to find your opportunity to move up. Another easy way to open up roster spots, the other avenue would be, I like we have 13 picks in the upcoming draft. I'm definitely planning on rolling a few of these into 24. Maybe a situation where I can trade like a 112 away and get someone's 24 first plus a 24 second or something. I don't know, stuff like that where I haven't. I'm opening up a roster spot and I'm preserving a lot of value for just the overall scope of value of my team. So that's kind of the 2 avenues to explore.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about it as the draft gets closer. But when rolling over into next year, look for teams that might be bad.
Yeah.
That don't know that they're going to be bad.
Mm.
I think that's a great avenue. So awesome. Let's hopefully we'll hear back about those.
Yeah, let's get after it. We got an awesome tight end class coming out. I've been stoked for this tight end class. So Greg and I are both connoisseurs, if you will, of the tight end position. We both really love following the tight ends coming out. Pretty much every league we play in together is like a 2 tight end start, tight end premium deal. If you've ever drafted with me before, I'm going to leave that draft with multiple tight end prospects. It's not a case where I'm going to spend a lot to get them necessarily, but I love tracking tight ends and really digging in through them. So this class coming out this year is absolutely juice. Love some of these players coming out, and Greg did a deep dive into what previously drafted tight ends and how's that shaken out. So why don't you walk us through that?
Yeah, so I looked at the last 10 draft classes, the tight ends. So that's 2012 to 2021.
The last 10 years of tight ends, yep.
I didn't think we had enough data here for the rookies. So look, day 1 tight ends. Looking at day 1 tight ends. These are first round tight ends. We had 2 unambiguous hits, Pitts and Hawkinson. Notice both of those guys got top 10 draft capital. And then we had 5 unambiguous misses. Ebron, O.J. Howard, Njoku, Hayden Hurst, Noah Fant. And then 2 that I'm calling ambiguous, Tyler Eifert and Evan Ingram.
You can maybe put Njoku into that ambiguous area, maybe. I mean, he's
I think the problem for guys like Njoku, or even Noah Fant, is absolutely nobody drafted them and has hung on to them for 6 years.
Yep.
Even if they come alive and at 27, 28, they turn into really good players. Nobody took Njoku in their rookie draft in 2017 and is still sitting here he just needed to season a little bit.
No,
right?
He had 3 awful years in a row before finally coming alive this season. So he was either cut or traded away.
Traded away at a discount.
Yeah,
right? Absolutely. So we've got really 2 out of 9 are clear hits. That's 22% of the total. 29% if you just leave out the ambiguous. 29% of the clear outcomes, right?
Both the 2 hits were top 10 picks also.
And both of the hits were top 10 picks, whereas Ebron was a miss at a top 10 pick, and the rest were all outside the top 10. And then think about the draft capital you had to spend for Pitts and Hawkinson.
Yeah,
right?
A lot.
So you have to spend a lot of draft capital, and those are not super high ceiling hits yet, right? Neither T.J. Hawkinson nor Kyle Pitts has won you a league by being a difference maker, right?
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, Hawkinson's been pretty productive sporadically. I mean, he had that tight end 4 season. His was his second year in the league. I mean, that was interesting. But
he wasn't so much better than tight end 9.
Yeah. He didn't have some outlier dominant performances. Yeah.
So when you compare that to day 2 tight ends in this sample, I saw 11. I saw 11 hits. Ertz. So and they included Ertz, Kelsey, Jordan Reed, Hunter Henry, Hooper, Gesicki, Goddard, Andrews, Knox, Fryermuth, and Dulcich. So you notice there we've got Andrews, Kelsey, Ertz, Goddard, Fryermuth, right? So like most of the top tight ends are in this day 2 bucket. There are 31 misses. I'm not going to go through them.
So many.
And 5 that I called ambiguous. Either guys who were too young, too new, or guys who like had middling outcomes. Kobe Fleener, Jonnu Smith, like probably a little disappointing in the end, but like had some moments early in their career where they were
It flashed. Yeah.
right. So 26. That's a 26% of unambiguous outcomes were hits compared to 29% with the first round guys. But think about the difference of draft capital, and you get all the big hits, right?
Yeah, these day 2 hits are some people you could take probably in the second half of your second round in a rookie draft versus spending a top 6 pick on a Kyle Pitts or something like that.
But wait, it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely arbitrarily decided to chop off the end of the third round.
Chop it off.
Just chop it off, because I noticed that a thing that happened was there were a whole bunch of tight ends that get taken at the end of the third round who never play at all.
Yep.
It's like teams just love throwing away their very late third round picks.
It's like the
on
cliff,
tight ends,
right? Once you hit about outside the top 80 or so, it's like kind of where things start to fall off pretty hard.
So 11 of the 42 tight ends who have gone on day 2 in this sample, 11 of them, so over a quarter, went between 91 and the end of the draft. And those 11 were Dawson Knox and 10 guys whose names you won't remember.
Yeah.
Right? So if we just chop that off, we end up with 10 of 31 hits, right? Which is a 33% hit rate. And then we get a 36% of obvious, excluding ambiguous, we get 36% hit rate on day 2 tight ends. Excuse me. There are a couple of other things on the day 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
You've got to drop off some guys who are obvious blocking tight ends. There are several players in this sample. Specifically, Drew's sample is the most obvious one. But there are a couple of Dwayne Allen, who are like 265, 270-pound guys who were drafted to block.
Yep.
Right?
Big offensive
linemen. Drop all these guys
yep.
off, and you take receiving profile day 2 tight ends, who were drafted before pick 90. You end up with a 36% total hit rate, including all of Ertz, Kelsey, Hunter Henry, Goddard, Andrews, Fryermuth, like basically all the best tight ends in the league for the most part, right there. And guys, there's going to be a bunch of those guys in this draft.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, the point Greg's trying to make is those guys who are drafted in the second, that's a sweet spot, right? Is dudes that are in like that, 30 through 90 NFL draft capital, dudes who you can get in your second round, who are probably the second or third tight end to go in your rookie draft. You can get them, outside the top 15 rookie selections. That's the sweet spot. That's where you can definitely minimal risk, minimal investment, high upside. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. And there's, like he's to his point, there's a lot of dudes that fall in that category here today.
And then day 3 is George Kittle and guys for your 2 tight end leagues,
and then
that's
Wasteland,
it.
Yeah.
Right. And the only exception to that is late round guys who switched from wide receiver, like Darren Waller and Juwan Johnson.
Yep.
So, ding, 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 Elijah Higgins.
Yeah, that's a wide receiver we talked about in a previous video. Feel free to check that out. But heads up on anyone who's dual tagged. But yeah, let's get into it. One of the takeaways from what Greg was saying is it might not be worth to draft the first tight end off the board in your rookie draft. That being said, I am absolutely in love with the first tight end in this class. A man who sits in, for our sake here on the channel, he's in a tier alone. Mr. Dalton Kincaid from Utah. Dalton Kincaid, 6'4", 240. One of the best pass catchers in this draft at any position. Almost a lock to be first round. Probably going to be the first tight end off the board in the NFL draft here. I'm in love with Kincaid, but why don't you talk to me about him?
Yeah, so senior from the University of Utah, is a transfer from the University of San Diego, which is not San Diego State. This is a Division II school, um, where he went. I believe he was a high school basketball player who was a very late football convert, right? So still learning the position. Um, has a back injury, so has not tested, so we don't have a RAS. Um, Junior year, kind of a halfway breakout. Uh, and then senior year, a real full breakout, 70 catches, 890 yards, 8 touchdowns. The tape on this guy is great. The hands are amazing.
So much fun to watch. If you're going to watch a tape of any tight end today, go watch some Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. He's an adequate positional blocker, but he does not look like a guy who's going to dig out anybody at the point of attack. He has a very advanced route tree, is big catch radius, smooth routes, better run after catch than the other the other tight end who's probably going to get first round capital in Michael Mayer. We'll get to him in a minute. The cons here are he didn't test, and he's little. So and testing matters a lot for tight ends, right? So
yes.
He didn't test, and he's little. And first round tight ends, you got that whole thing we just talked about. He struggles some with inline blocking. He's going to have to bulk up. Will that make him slower? He didn't test. The tape. By the way, go watch the tape of him against USC. It's ridiculous the way he carves up this. He's so good. Look, to me, he's part Mike Gesicki and part George Kittle, right? And the Mike Gesicki part could get you into a place where you're disappointed with him if he doesn't block well enough to keep himself on the field, right? If he makes himself an 85% snap share guy, he's going to be great. He has legit high-end receiving skills.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, he reminds me most of George Kittle when he's running these seam routes where he's stretching the field and he gets this deep A-dot. He's like one of the guys in his class who has a real chance to have a deep A-dot, which is what you want to have a top 3 tight end season.
Yeah, and the rack, I just want to touch on that more. I mean, he's a rack monster. I mean, this guy is out of the whole group of tight ends, probably easily the best one with the ball in his hands, I would say. He looks a lot like George Kittle, but I mean, he makes people miss in the open field. He's got excellent contact balance. Travis Kelce-esque in that it's like, wow, that guy got the ball at his size, and he was way faster and more athletic than we thought he'd be, and he just snuck his way to the end zone. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see from Dalton Kincaid. He's already starting to get a real groundswell of hype around him. There are some interesting landing spots. He could hit Cincinnati at the back end of the first round and then just go absolutely nuclear, at least in terms of cost. And I would like that landing spot, but I mean, if that happened, you might see him as a 8th overall rookie pick, something like that. Interesting Dalton Kincaid, someone who I'd be willing to bet money that he's going to develop into a starter for your fantasy team within the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So then on to tier 2, Michael Mayer. So Michael Mayer may be the best tight end in this class. We don't care about blocking over here.
In terms of all-around tight end NFL game, yeah.
Yeah, like Michael Mayer is like the most, to me, high floor, limited ceiling prospect I've ever seen. About
yes.
So he's a junior out of Notre Dame, 6'4.5", 249, ran a 4.7, which is good enough. Okay, his RAS is 7.65, which is borderline okay. It's the worst RAS in the top 3 tiers. Okay, but over 3 productive seasons, he caught 180 passes for 2,100 yards and 18 touchdowns.
That's so much for a collegiate tight end. That's
so much production.
Yeah.
A semi-breakout, 42 catch, 450 yard freshman year. So rare for a freshman tight end to do that. Full breakout as a sophomore. He has never had a bad season. He has never missed a game. He is a perfectly good, adequate inline blocker, right? I don't know if he's going to be a great blocker, but he's going to stay on the field and be that 85% snap share guy.
Yeah, he's going to be on the field so much, and that's where so much of his opportunity is going to be.
Yeah. Um,
He's just a damn good football player.
he really,
he really
is.
Yeah.
He's got just fantastic hands in traffic. He drops nothing. He has the best hands in the class, regardless of position. I think that is totally fair.
Yeah.
He high points the ball effectively. He's aggressive in accumulating rack by attacking smaller defensive backs. He's not like an elusive or shifty runner, but like he knows how to get the ball in his hands and go toward the end zone and punish somebody and fall forward, right? But the cons here are just this is the worst athlete among the top tight ends in the class at a position where athleticism matters a lot. And he's, by the way, he's the worst athlete amongst the group by a lot, other than Dalton Kincaid, who didn't test.
Yep.
He has very short arms. The short area quickness is okay. The blocking is good, but he's definitely good enough to put his hand in the ground.
They talk about him sometimes like he's this elite blocker, and so you don't think so.
Okay. No, but honestly, he's plenty good enough to be all the snaps tight end.
Yeah.
He's just not an elite blocker for that role.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's a good enough blocker to stay on the field and not such a good blocker that he's going to get held in for pass pro all the time. I think that might be just best of all worlds. But, I mean, he's not a freaky ceiling guy, but he's very high floor. Todd Heath Miller are ceiling outcomes, and I think like Dalton Schultz is the median, and the floor is something like Hayden Hurst.
Yes, safety is the big thing with Mayer. If you're the type of person who likes to draft a safe player, not take big risks with your rookie picks, you can lean into this guy. He's gonna take care of you there.
In a 2 tight end premium league, like this is a guy who should rise a lot because this is a guy who's going to be way above replacement. This is the second safest prospect after Bijan in terms of above replacement value in your 2 tight end formats.
High floor, yeah, and interesting note with him. I think the shine has really rubbed off on Michael Mayer. The whole pre-draft process has not been very kind to him. You've seen Kincaid jump over him. People talk about Washington and his athleticism. It's the next guy we're talking about. Him maybe jumping over Mayer, and so I think that's going to reflect in your rookie drafts. There might be a situation where you can nab a first-round selected Michael Mayer, in your middle second round of your rookie draft. I think that might be a reality, and if that's the case, man, I'm going to gobble that up. I'll be all over that, even if I have an established tight end on my team. I want a piece of that. You can have these guys develop and trade them off later. One question I have is, so he sounds like a lot like similar to Freiermuth to me. So if we look at both these guys as prospects, just as prospects coming out, entering the league, would you say Mayer would be ahead of where Freiermuth was, or how would you compare those two?
Yeah, Mayer's more polished. He's been more productive, but I think Freiermuth is a better athlete. So I think Freiermuth had a better chance to bust, but now that he's good, I think he'll end up being better than Mayer.
Okay,
that's how I would put it.
Sure.
Like, because Freiermuth is just more of a monster to me.
he is a monster.
he really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next guy. So our next player here, and I just want to say I'm out of line here. This guy is the consensus tight end 5.
Yeah,
he's my tight end 3. But I do think the consensus has pushed him up onto the tier with some of these other guys. This is Sam Laporta, the senior tight end from Iowa, 6'3", 245 pounds, ran a 4.59 40. 9.02 RAS, that is the 90th percentile. This is a player who was a junior breakout, 53 catches for 670. He has a career 153 catches for 1786 and 5, very much like Michael Mayer. He was the Hawkeyes' leading receiver in each of the last 2 seasons, much like Michael Mayer.
Yep.
Right? He is a very good route runner. He has the sharpest breaks in this tight end class. He's a versatile receiver who played inline in college plenty, but also out of the slot and flexed all the way at the boundary, and uh, runs all the classic tight end intermediate routes, but also has some neat deep moves, and some work on the tight end screen. Really good hands, very productive. Iowa runs the most pro-friendly system out there. We don't love helmet scouting, but like also Iowa produced George Kittle and Hawkinson and Fant,
Yeah.
and there are a couple of other ones. So like, uh, and this is the next guy. He's a little undersized, right? If he was 6'4", 250, we would all feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think he's a year in the weight room away from being an every snap guy, and he is not an elite athletic mismatch. But I feel like you're going to get a player out of this guy. I think the ceiling is Hunter Henry, and the median outcome is Gerald Everett. But I think there's the distribution is a really good chance that you get multiple tight end one seasons here. I'd rather have him in the late third or early fourth than Michael Mayer in the mid second. If he gets the draft capital I suspect he'll get, which is like top 75.
He's getting mocked in the second round pretty regularly right now.
Yeah, so if he goes in this late second round, I'd probably rather take him in my rookie third round.
Yeah.
Take Mayer in the rookie second.
Yeah, this is a guy who I'm probably going to have in a lot of my taxi, Sam Laporta. He's going to be someone you might have to wait on, but the upside's worthwhile. Where if you do wait on him, I think he's going to return value for you. Kind of dude who might even be worth kind of not being out on, but waiting on a little bit, and then maybe pursuing heavily as he enters his second year. And it could be a sleeper in your rookie leagues where he might be available in your late third round because people just don't know who he is. So heads up on that.
I've seen him getting into the fourth round of some rookie drafts, of some mocks. So keep an eye for him. Yeah. All right.
So Luke Musgrave is going to be the next tight end up in the second tier of tight ends here. We got the 6'6", 253-pound Oregon State senior. He ran a 4.6 140. We love that at his size. Where are you at with Musgrave?
Yeah, so 9.78 RAS, 98th percentile. That's what this is. This is athleticism. Had a great Senior Bowl. Expected draft capital of high second round, I think. His career production is 47 catches for 633 yards and 2 touchdowns. Right. This is a guy who took a little while to break out, and then got hurt after he started his senior year with 2 big games and then got hurt and missed the rest of the year. Right. So it looked like a breakout, and you've got to give him a lot of narrative credit there. Right. So you got to follow the draft capital. If the NFL believes, then you believe. But he's this is also the nephew of NFL offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave. So
interesting. Yeah. Love that. You love those pedigree
right.
things.
So you got the pedigree.
That stuff,
right.
Yeah.
So he's a great athlete. He was a 5-sport varsity athlete in high school or something like that. One of those guys, right? All the things. I believe downhill skiing was one of them, right? So
imagine this guy 6'6", 250 on skis.
Right.
I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see the videos.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely classic inline and slot versatility. This is my favorite seam stretching tight end in the class. He has the highest ADOT in the class. He runs good crossing routes. He is a solid technical route runner. Uncle Bill's been teaching me because he's an offensive coordinator, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So he's got solid hands. He's a high effort blocker with the physicality to be an every down inline player. He is not refined in that regard, but I do, unlike Laporta, who probably has to put on weight to get there, Luke Musgrave just has to earn the spot.
Just
right?
Play well, yeah.
Yeah. Now the cons, he's not incredibly quick or twitchy, and the complete lack of production means all of this is guessing and projection.
Yep.
It's not a great drive blocker at this point. I think he might need a year of being a backup to become an every down player. He's better against off coverage than tight press coverage. He doesn't get great separation against tight press coverage. The ceiling outcome here is Dallas Goedert, and the median outcome for me is something like Cole Kmet, which makes him very useful.
Yeah, Musgrave's going to be an interesting prospect to track. We all have these individual landing spots we like for tight end. He's someone who could skyrocket if he hits that sweet spot. Top 100 capital, almost certainly. Up next is going to be Darnell Washington. I think usually the tight end 3 by consensus in this class a lot of times. Darnell Washington, the Georgia Bulldog, standing 6'7" and 264.
Yeah, so man, this is a guy who the RAS score of 9.88, 99th percentile. His entire career production was 45 catches for 774, 17.2 per reception, which is huge, and 3 touchdowns.
It's just so low volume. It's hard to...
Such low volume. And unlike Musgrave, who had, again, Musgrave's another guy who's been around a while and had only 47 career catches. But, Musgrave was hurt. Darnell Washington just wasn't throwing the ball because he is, one of the most elite blocking tight ends you will ever see, right? This is one of the problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So...
the team could draft this guy highly and view him as mostly a blocker, and
yes.
it's a trap, and you might spend your rookie pick on him, and he just doesn't partake in the passing game at all.
The chance that he's a trap is why he's my tight end 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Now the flip side of that is, while I was scouting Washington, I watched a bunch of Brock Bowers, the other tight end at Georgia.
Freak of nature.
And oh my goodness, is this guy going to be great? Right.
Yeah.
So, is that why Washington? But now on the other hand, it's not like that Georgia is loaded with wide receivers that are dominating this class, right? There's room there, and Washington's targets per route are really low. It's not just that he was held in, it's that he didn't earn a lot of targets.
Yep.
Okay. But he does have, he's an absolute freak athlete. We have seen freak athletes who are better in the pros than in college. He has the potential to be a complete mismatch. The hands are really good. He is a guy who will start from day one just because of the blocking. So he could be productive as a rookie for you. He does attack the seams pretty well. He's not elusive, but my goodness, he is a hard guy for defensive backs to get down.
He's so gigantically massive.
How he earned that high.
Yeah.
Yes. On the other hand, that is something that doesn't always translate quite as well to the pros.
Sure.
These pro safeties know how to get guys on the ground. They're savvy, they're crafty, right?
So he hits me like Jelani Woods did. I mean, who do we like? Would you say Washington's a better prospect than Woods was coming out?
Yes, he's a better prospect than Woods,
so
but he's a better prospect than Woods.
Blocking, he blocks so much better. Yeah.
But the other thing though is that can be a trap, right? You don't have I don't think Jelani Woods is a good enough blocker, even at his size, to where he's going to be pass proing all the time. Darnell Washington could legitimately just be nuked by pass proing on 30% of the team snaps. So there's projection in the profile. The elite blocking could actually be a problem. He runs rounded routes. He doesn't generate a lot of separation. There's things, but I think the ceiling comp here is Gronk, right? He's got all
nice ceiling, yeah.
Right. I think the median comp for me is a fellow Georgia Bulldog. It's Ben Watson, who was like a high floor, low ceiling player.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is really where I lean with him. But if you want to shoot for the moon, this is the player to shoot with.
Yeah, man, definitely worth your pick there, wherever back second round or wherever you take him. Probably into the middle third. Washington could go. So that's tier two. Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta, Luke Musgraves, and Darnell Washington. We're gonna drop down here into tier three, and we're gonna open up with a man who absolutely blew up the combine and just skyrocketed after that. From Old Dominion, the 6'8", 250-pound freak, Zach Kuntz.
Yeah, so Zach Kuntz weighed at 255 and ran a 4.55 at the combine. That's ridiculous, but it was more than just that, right? His agility drills were silly too.
Yeah.
His RAS was a perfect 10. It's the best RAS score of all time. This is a guy who transferred from Penn State, where he was viewed as a gadget player. Like they didn't know what to do with him at Penn State.
What do you do with him?
Which is kind of concerning.
Yeah.
But also like he was barely recruited. I believe he sent his own recruiting tape to Penn State, right? Like they didn't want him that much, but he's a great athlete. You know what I mean? So anyway, then he transfers to Old Dominion, which I didn't realize was a BCS school, a low tier BCS school.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And as a junior, he had a breakout year, 73 catches for 692 and 5. That's a great season. Let's see. Most athletic tight end ever. Injury shortened senior year. Or
That's
maybe
a hell of a thing to say. Most athletic tight end ever. Like in the history of football. Very potentially could be that.
So he could be a mismatch freak. Right?
Yeah.
And he worked in line in the slot and flexed out wide at Old Dominion. He runs good routes. He has good hands. He works the zone well. He is quick working through his breaks. You can see the short area quickness part of his athleticism. This is not just tall man run fast, right? This is athletic.
He's not Dan Arnold. Yeah.
No, this is a good mover. Right. He works back to his quarterback on scramble drills and, high points the ball nicely. He's got very, very good ball skills in the air. He's a jump ball nightmare. They use him that way in the end zone. Cons. First of all, let's go back to that story about how he busted out at Penn State and had to go to Old Dominion. Right. We talked in a previous episode about Puka Nacua having to transfer from Washington to BYU to break out. Well, this guy has to transfer down to Old Dominion to break out. That's concerning, right? We like seeing players who transfer up. We don't like this. He is not a great run after catch guy for the athleticism. And finally, being 6'7" and change, almost 6'8", he really struggles to get under edge defenders in run blocking.
I bet he does. Those guys are 6'2" usually. So
yes.
It's hard to do. Yeah.
And you can really see how hard it is for him to set an edge at times. And so you wonder a little bit about his ability to become an 85% snap guy. But I really like the ceiling here. My median outcome here is something like Mike Gesicki, and my ceiling outcome is like Jimmy Graham.
Okay.
Yeah. I really, he does have that lanky, rangy wide receiver plus profile to it.
Yeah. He's someone I'd like to see go to a Chiefs, right, and then back up Kelsey for a couple years, and then maybe step into his role. I mean, that could be insane. I mean, probably his fantasy value becomes almost, hard to actually be in at that because of the risk he presents. But yeah, interesting. Zach Kuntz.
Absolutely. Okay. Next, we got Tucker Kraft, redshirt junior from South Dakota State, 6'5", 254 pounds, ran a 4.69. Right. So this is 6'5", 250 and change, runs a touch under 4.7. RAS is 9.86. That's the 97th percentile.
That's really good.
Yep. By the way, another freak. Look at all these freaks, right? Kraft, Kuntz, Washington, Musgrave, right? Laporta's a pretty good athlete. So just great athletes here.
I wish some of these guys were receivers because the receiver class does not boast this depth of athleticism.
It does not. So South Dakota State, this is a This is not an FBS. This is an FCS. This is lower tier competition.
Just where Trey
South
Lance came
Dakota
from.
State
Yeah.
did win the national title at FCS level this year. Um, he also reportedly, I learned this just this week, turned down a transfer offer from Alabama.
What? Really? Oh
Yeah,
wow,
to
that's
go back
interesting.
to go back to South Dakota State and win a national title, which they did. Um, so sophomore breakout, 65 catches for 773 and 6 touchdowns. He had limited success as a junior with an ankle injury. South Dakota State produced Dallas Goddard, by the way.
Christian
So there's
Watson.
that, right?
Yep.
No, that's North Dakota State.
North. I'm getting confused. My bad. I got him. Sorry.
Yep, yep. Christian Watson, Trey Lance,
Yeah, yeah.
Carson Wentz. That's the Bisons.
That's Indy.
This is the Jackrabbits.
The Jackrabbits.
Yep.
Yeah.
So look, he's very athletic. Solid run after catch. This is a classic inline tight end. He's an above average blocker for an incoming tight end prospect. This is a guy who has just screams every down tight end in terms of his physicality and his ability to play on the end of the line. The technique needs improvement, but he's got the natural power to be a blocker in all situations. He's got good body control in contested catch situations. Cons, man, there are some concentration drops I don't love. And then the low level of competition. He played as one of the leading receivers on an option heavy run offense, right? So almost all of his passing work is in this play action gadgety leak out kind of stuff,
Yep.
right? He's a very raw route runner. I think the ceiling is sort of peak Austin Hooper.
Yeah, Atlanta, Austin Hooper.
Yeah, and then the median outcome is where Foster Moreau has developed, where he was a premium backup tight end for a team, right? Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, the median outcome. But I do think this is a guy who has clear starter potential, right? Sort of everybody knew Foster Moreau had starter potential, and he was going to get that before the before the unfortunate cancer diagnosis. This reminds me of that of him a lot too, in that kind of, maybe he's a backup for a while, maybe, but eventually I think he'll be a back end starter. So if your format supports a lot of tight end bonus, I think he could be very good. And the ceiling is he's better than that, right? The ceiling is tight end 1 numbers.
Is this guy worth taking in my late 4th round and taxiing for a couple years? Does he have enough upside where he's worth that? Okay.
Yes, this whole tier does.
Yep.
And we're going to close this tier.
Yeah. Go ahead.
With Luke Schoonmaker.
Schoonmaker, is that how you say it?
It might be Schoonmaker. Senior from Michigan, 6'5", 251, ran a 4.63 40. His RAS, third in the class, was 9.86. That's 99th percentile. His RAS was behind only Kudenson Washington. This is a guy who I really liked the limited tape I saw. But this is a guy who only has 54 catches for 673 and 7 for his career, and most of that was as a senior, and he's almost 25, right? And the age, late age medium breakout, is a profile at tight end that often doesn't work.
Yeah.
So be careful with him, but I think he'll be the 8th tight end off the board if he's if he gets that top 90 draft capital, which I think there's a chance, then this is a guy you want to taxi.
Sure.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I want to say here, so as we close out this tier of guys, this is where Elijah Higgins belongs. If somebody drafts him, the wide receiver from Stanford, if you listen to our last episode, you know. If somebody drafts him and says, we are turning him into a tight end, this is where he belongs.
Tier 4, yeah.
End of tier 4, right around Schoonmaker, behind Kraft, but ahead of the less athletic guys who are about to come.
All right, yeah, for real. So we're gonna break into the next tier here. But that's tier 3: Zach Kuntz, Tyler Kraft, Schoonmaker, and who's the wide receiver? Name is
Higgins.
Higgins. Yeah, Elijah Higgins. All right, but some guys who have been getting some buzz here in the fourth tier of tight ends, particularly Will Mallory, 6'5", from Miami of Florida.
Yeah, so he's the smallest tight end. He weighed at 239 at the combine, 454. So like, yeah, that's a 9.06 RAS, 90th percentile, 115 career catches, 1,500 career yards, and 14 touchdowns. Right. So this is a very productive guy at a high school. Um, I kind of think the weight may end up making him like a tight end two, where he's got to most of the time be, um, on the move, doing some H back stuff, in motion.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe he puts on some weight. Maybe I don't know. Um, I like his tape. This is a guy who I liked his tape I liked his performance at the Senior Bowl, and then I liked his Miami tape. The thing for me about Will Mallory is he has a really good instinct for finding the hole in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if he goes to an offense where he earns snaps and he is like, and they face a lot of zone and he's the zone beater, um, you know, there could be some stuff there, right? So this tier is guys for your deeper leagues, your deeper formats. Um, Mallory, I like the tape. The size is going to be a limitation.
All right, next up is a guy I've never even heard of, Cameron Alatu from Alabama.
Yeah, Cameron Letu. He is the all-time. He's 56 catches for 787, and 12 is the all-time career leader in Alabama tight end performance, I believe.
Yeah.
He's he's kind of just a guy for a while. RAS of 6.22 is very fringe, 6'4", 242. He's he's a move tight end who doesn't move that well. He's like solid. Like this is going to be a career contributor, but this is going to be a career contributor in this league. But unless I am mistaken, this is a backup tight end.
Yeah.
In the league. But he's very experienced and has that Alabama pedigree. So just watch in case he gets draft capital.
Yep, it might not be rosterable if he doesn't hit somewhere with capital. Payne Durham, next guy up, Richard Senior from Purdue.
6'6", 253, runs a 4.87. RAS of 6.58. That's a fringe RAS, but this is a guy who was more productive, like 126 for 1275 and 21 touchdowns in his career. He's a very productive long-term player, and he blocks really nicely. So this is a guy who could have, and he's big, right? Like unlike Letu, who didn't have a good RAS, but was 242. This is a guy who doesn't have a good RAS, but he's 253. So this could be your unathletic blocking tight end who is nonetheless a starting tight end.
Mayer Light, yeah.
Oh, I mean, no, that's not fair to Michael Mayer, and I'm not a huge fan.
All right, yeah.
But like, I mean, Kate Otten Light.
Okay, there you go.
Right,
yeah.
Like, Hayden Hurst Light.
Okay.
Right, like some of these guys who just like they get some volume because there's nobody else there, because like they're on the field all the time, right? Like they're on the field all the time, and in your two tight end leagues, sometimes you need these guys, right? And then finally, Brenton Strange, redshirt junior from Penn State, 6'4", 253, ran a 4.7, RAS of 9.9, 9.09, 91st percentile, 70 career catches. This is a guy who's been sneaking up draft boards.
Is this the guy who forced Kuntz out of Penn State? Maybe he didn't want to compete with this guy. Yeah.
No, because he's a late breakout.
Okay, all right.
He's a late breakout.
Yeah.
Like the late breakout is a thing here, and they really didn't have anybody. The tape isn't great. Honestly, the tape is worse than the stats for this guy. But if he gets, of the four guys on this tier, I think he's the most likely to get good draft capital, actually. And if that happens, then you got to pay attention. Will Mallory is the one of these four where I like to tape.
Okay.
So there you go. And that's tight ends, guys.
Yeah, we got a count. That's tight ends. We got a counter offer on the Dynasty 24/7 league. The offers we sent out. So the Herbert owner sent us back. He offered us with a 6-hour clock. Ooh. He's offering us Justin Herbert for Devonta Smith and Justin Fields. So that's a 2-for-1. My initial reaction to this is twofold. I'm either thinking just smash accept or counter for something. I don't know. I kind of want to just ask for a little more in return. I'm pretty sure this guy's like no draft picks. Yeah, he doesn't have anything. But, I don't know. What are you doing with this?
I don't want to give up Devonta Smith, man.
I don't either.
I think we need him.
Yeah.
I think we need that.
What if we alter one of our previous offers? What if we go back to like Pickens and then maybe we sweeten it with like a third piece because we have the roster spots available to do something like that? How does that sound? And by third piece, I mean like maybe one of these twos, like this. I think like maybe if we put this 203 on here, it might get it done. Maybe that's.
If we're gonna put 203, why not put 112?
True.
Pickens and 112.
What if we do that? Yeah. Do we need to ask for anything more back, or are we comfortable?
No, I'm. If I can get away with just Pickens, then I'm comfortable with that. All right, so let's.
So we send this 3-for-1, a first-round pick, George Pickens, and Justin Fields for.
Yep.
Justin Herbert. Oh man, that's so pricey. That's like going against everything in my being, but I'm gonna send it out.
It's so not.
No, we'll do it.
God.
The team the roster we have can support a move like this.
It doesn't matter, man. You almost never regret
trading
giving
for an elite quarterback.
For the elite quarterback. You just don't regret that.
If you look at it from a startup perspective, though, it's like, I don't know, what's Pickens, like a 6th-round pick right now, plus like, Fields and Herbert usually have about 5 or 6 slots separating them in the first round, if that. So you'd be swapping up those slots, and you're giving up your.
I know, but you don't understand how crazy.
Plus a 112. No, and prices change in an established league versus a startup. There's literally difference. So I think.
I mean,
I think this is fair.
Yeah. No.
All right, we'll see if that hits. It might not hit here.
Allen and Herbert's gonna mean you. If we get Allen and Herbert, like that means never having to say you're sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're locked in. Yep.
Right.
I love it. And that's interesting because we traded up to get Fields, so this will be a really interesting ladder that we've walked if we can put these two quarterbacks together on this championship caliber roster. But
I love it.
Thanks for joining us today, friends and family. Appreciate you tuning in and learning about the tight ends with us. A lot of awesome tight ends coming out. Take your dart on one. Just want to leave you with one little rule of thumb that I've always learned from. So if you're playing in a single tight end start, non-tight end premium league, just a regular PPR league, my general rule of thumb has always been wait until the 4th round to take a dart on my tight end. And the back half of the 3rd, some of them can get pretty attractive, but usually you're better suited taking a running back there. And I try to wait into the 4th round to take my shot on tight end, and I try not to be baited by the 3rd round bait.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Any favorite landing spot for tight end this year? Since you're LA.
I mean, Cincinnati and the Chargers are obvious landing spots. I think Miami.
Yep.
Has an obvious need.
Green Bay.
Dallas is the sneaky one.
Yes, it is.
I hope not, because Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot are like my 2nd and 4th most owned tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ferguson's fate hangs in the balance this Thursday. He could shoot up so hard if he doesn't get any competition at tight end. Ferguson.
He really, really could.
He could. Yeah.
And then obviously. But my favorite landing spot is probably Washington.
Okay.
In the Bieniemy offense, in the Kelsey role.
Yeah.
No competition.
And there's nothing going on at tight end there. Who was the kid they drafted last year?
Cole Turner.
Cole Turner. Yeah, I haven't brought him rostered, but he hasn't done anything at all. So, all right. Thank you so much for tuning in, friends and family. Appreciate it. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Who's your favorite tight end out of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th tier tight ends here? Who do you like? Are you with Greg on Sam Laporta? Are you going to take a shot on Zach Kuntz in your 3rd round? Let me know, and have a good one.